What makes a good person? A good person is typically kind, honest, selfless, helpful, and just. Good people typically embody the traits that you would want to see in the people that you associate with. And none of those traits are required to make a good character. Attack on Titan is a series that has had a lot of characters in its 139-chapter run, or since the anime started airing in 2013. Some have become fan favorites, while others have been completely forgotten. Some characters are more liked than others, and some are better written than others. And I am here to argue that one of the most hated characters, Gabi Braun, is one of the best written characters, and that one of the most beloved characters, Mikasa Ackerman, is one of the worst written characters. Now, what makes a good character? The first thing to understand about writing a good character is that a good character is not the same thing as a good person. This distinction matters when judging characters, because when most people hear the question, do you think X is a good character? They instead hear, do you like X? And so they give their answer based on how good or bad or how annoying or admirable the character is. This makes sense when judging real people, as we generally want the people around us to be good and kind, so that we aren't negatively affected by their existence. Characters, however, are not people. They aren't autonomous beings with free will, and any actions they take, beliefs they have, or decisions they make are decided by an author, like puppets on a stage. So, to judge whether or not a character is good based on the parameters that we use to judge real people is flawed. A character doesn't have to be likable or even moral. All they have to be is interesting and contribute to the plot of the story. So, why do I consider Gabi to be one of the best written characters? Gabi Braun is an Eldian in the Warrior Candidate program training to be a warrior, one of the Titan shifters employed in Marley's military. She's indoctrinated by all sorts of propaganda to hate Paradise Island and Eldians. While Gabi's time in the Warrior Candidate program is initially used to grant us a deeper understanding of Reiner's character, with her relationship with him being used to see how Paradise has changed him, Gabi's character arc culminates when the military of Paradise attacks her home and kills a lot of people she cares about. This causes her to retaliate and kill Sasha, a less important character in the story, and results in her being spirited off to Paradise Island as a prisoner of war. During her time on Paradise Island, Gabi is forced to interact amicably with the denizens of Paradise, which she sucks at since she has been taught to hate them. And through her time on the island, Gabi unlearns the indoctrination and propaganda she has been fed from her time as a warrior candidate, with her character arc ending with her saving Kaya, another Eldian, from a Titan that had been trying to kill her before. Now, despite the character arc Gabi was given, she is by far one of the most despised characters in the story, a hatred I find completely unreasonable. The hatred towards her isn't due to anything like poor characterization or irrelevance to the plot and themes of the series, but because she killed a waifu, and one who is more relevant dead than alive at that. This is an incredibly dumb reason to dislike a character. Hating a character for harming other characters is so asinine and idiotic, it's like hating a lock for making it harder for you to get into your house. Of course it's going to make getting into your house more difficult, that's what it was designed to do. Another reason people hate Gabi is because they find her bigotry annoying. But that bigotry is important to the growth of her character, and as stated before, characters do not have to be good people, only interesting and integral to the story. What makes Gabi's bigotry interesting is that Gabi is taught to hate Eldians, but she herself is an Eldian, so she has been essentially taught to hate herself. She joins the Warrior Candidate program and believes that if she kowtows to the Marleyans enough, they'll label her as one of the good ones, and treat her and her family with respect. This kind of self-hating bigotry isn't unique in the real world, but it is rarely depicted in media, so Gabi's character being a depiction of it adds a degree of dimensionality. Her character arc of unlearning the bigotry and propaganda she's been fed from youth is one that is tied to the narrative of how Eldians are discriminated against, which is why I think it works so well in the story, as well as why I think her character arc had a fairly satisfying resolution, especially when compared with the resolutions of other more prominent characters. On the topic of more prominent characters, why do I consider Mikasa to be one of the worst written characters? Mikasa Ackerman has been a major character since the very first chapter. However, in spite of that fact, and the fact that she is supposed to be a part of the trio of main characters, Mikasa has done very little to move the plot forward in any way. In the first few chapters, the story explores Eren's character, which is understandable as he is the protagonist. However, for Mikasa, we never see her thoughts during these chapters, and if she was removed from them, the story would be mostly the same. In the training arc, the scenes she does have are extraneous, and her character moments could easily be co-opted by other characters without affecting the story. We don't need her misunderstanding Eren when he passes the ODM test, or all of the comedic moments involving Sasha, which I actually do like, as they give her a semblance of personality, but her dynamic with Sasha is never explored beyond her dynamic with the 104th, apart from when the story expects us to believe that she cared about Sasha by having her sit at her grave, despite never showing the two women interact in any meaningful way after this arc. In the Trost arc, I will concede that she is important to the story here. Her backstory with Eren killing her kidnappers does highlight that Eren has always been a bit deranged, and the scenes like her threatening Demo Reeves, rallying the cadets, or or trying to move on due to believing that Eren is dead actually give her character a degree of dimensionality and importance. But this is really the peak of her character, and it's all downhill from here. In the female Titan arc, the only major part she contributes to the story is her line about the world being cruel and beautiful, a line that almost any other character could probably come up with given that all these characters are living in the same terrible setting. Her role of rescuing Eren in the female Titan arc, and every later arc for that matter, could easily be co-opted by Levi, who really only highlights the redundancy of her character. Outside of her relationship with Eren, the only thing about her that is worth thinking about is her exceptional strength, which Levi also has, so it's not all that exceptional. You don't need two overpowered Ackerman super soldiers. And unlike Mikasa, Levi actually contributes to the story, given his dynamic with Irvin, Zeke, him teaching Eren not to regret his choices, and his relationship with Kenny, the secondary antagonist of the Uprising arc, also known as the best arc in the entire story. Mikasa doesn't have any of these interesting contributions and only contributes to the story during the fights. Face it, if your character's only defining feature is that they can bench press a tank, then you have failed as a writer, as your character has the narrative importance of a forklift. The lack of importance Mikasa had in the story could have been alleviated if she had at least some kind of character arc of her own, but everything about her circles back to Eren. Her goals in life? Protect and be with Eren. Reasoning for her goal? She was saved by Eren. When Eren is supposedly dead and she has a chance to actually grow beyond that, he comes back and any potential growth from her beyond Eren is nipped in the bud. She's nothing more than a satellite character who never develops and grows beyond her relationship to Eren. What makes it worse is that in the final arc of the series, there were several instances that could have been used to further develop Mikasa's character. A total of 3 different instances were introduced that could have allowed Mikasa to develop and grow. The first of these is the introduction of the Azumabito clan. The introduction of this clan reveals Mikasa's heritage and provides the most brazen avenue for Mikasa to grow beyond satelliting around Eren. The potential relationship Mikasa could have had with Kiyomi would have not only given us more insight into the Hizuru people and the world beyond Eldia, but also Mikasa and how she views her loyalty to Paradis. Then there is the reintroduction of Louis. Louis is a character that shows up as early as the Trost arc, where she was a little girl who was saved by Mikasa when she threatened Demo Reeves. Come the final arc, Louis has become a soldier that idolizes Mikasa, a relationship that mirrors Mikasa's relationship with Eren. Where Mikasa is a satellite character to Eren, Louis is a satellite character to Mikasa, though this is less of an issue as Louis isn't a major character. That aside, this relationship and how terrible it was could have provided a foil to Mikasa's own terrible relationship with Eren and facilitates some introspection from Mikasa, either in how she treats Louis or in how she views her own relationship with Eren. The third instance that could have been used to facilitate some development for Mikasa is the table scene from chapter 112. In this scene, Eren tells Mikasa that her loyalty to him is due to an innate instinct that overrides her personality and desires that manifested when he rescued her from her kidnappers. Now, whether or not Eren was lying in the scene was definitely a topic for debate, but what it did do was throw into question literally everything about Mikasa's actions and motivations. If Eren was telling the truth, then was everything Mikasa ever did for him not of her own volition, and how does she move forward from this? And if he was lying, then why was she still devoted to him after the atrocities he committed? Could she in good faith still follow Eren despite the fact that the person she cared about possibly didn't exist anymore? All of these plot points introduced ways for Mikasa to grow and develop into an interesting character. And how are they all resolved? Does her relationship with Louis force her to reevaluate her own terrible relationship with Eren? Does her Hizuru heritage cause her to question her own loyalty and devotion to Paradis? Does Eren's statement of her being a slave as well as his own atrocities cause her to reevaluate whether or not her idealized image of Eren is dissonant with the person he truly is? Well, Mikasa's relationship with Louis never gets explored beyond Mikasa barely acknowledging the existence, with Louis probably dying off screen. For the Hizuru plotline, she completely dismisses the Azumabito, and they ultimately get reduced to being a glorified taxi. And for Eren's statement about hating Mikasa, well, whether or not Eren was lying is irrelevant because Mikasa ultimately doesn't take anything away from it. In the end, none of these avenues for expanding and developing Mikasa's character ever get explored beyond a cursory gesture, and as such her character is left just as shallow as it was in the beginning. Her entire character, satelliting around a man and an article of clothing. Now, I know that people are going to bring this up, so I'll say it here. The Eren Mikasa ship is a terrible ship. They don't have an interesting relationship. Neither of them grow nor develop as characters due to this relationship, and the ship only exists because of the ubiquity of heteronormative conventions. Eren barely even acknowledges Mikasa throughout the entire series and has a far more interesting and meaningful relationship with Armin. If Eren was going to be in a romantic relationship with any character, it should have been him. Mikasa's character is disappointing to me, because she could have been an actually interesting character, especially in the final arc when the story started presenting potential moments for her to grow as a character. However, as seen in the ending and the general response to it, most people didn't want her to be an interesting, well-rounded character. They wanted her to be a Ken doll they could slap on a body pillow, superficially appealing with nothing substantial. When you compare her character to that of Gabi, the difference between the two is like the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. Where Mikasa embodies characteristics people find appealing in others, like strength, the lack of a cohesive role in the story and any interesting postulations to make her character thematically relevant inhibit her quality as a character. In contrast, where Gabi lacks the character traits to make her emotionally appealing, she instead embodies a character arc that is not only interesting, but ties into the story's themes of generational bigotry, indoctrination, and how there are no heroes or villains in war, only people. And that is a far more interesting story to read.